Alafia.
I
Welcome
love
to
you.
Life Podcast with Oshuni Sheshe.
In time.
And um, as always, we thank you for rocking with us because y'all really been watching our stuff and we thank you. We appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Yes. We got some really good feedback. Um, and we're glad that we are able to share our stories and to help others um, realize, identify um, with what we're sharing, and then also the biggest thing is right, being heard, being seen, knowing that they're not that matters a lot to us because that's the right purpose. We all go through a multitude of things in our lives, experiences. And sometimes think about those things at the most random times and like, dang, did I handle that right? Am I the only one that, is questioning that? Because I know I do that quite often. Here I am skipping along by my merry way, and then boom, experience pops up in my head, and it's just like, I could have said that myself. Oh, did I blow that out of proportion? Or why didn't I speak up for myself? Things of that nature. So these are things that we want to address with this podcast because we need to talk about the real deal, not sweeping things under the rug like we were taught. Like some of our elders and our ancestors, they didn't have their voices were taken away, and you know, we ain't doing that shit no more. Okay, so we're gonna continue with this healing series because apparently this is not apparently we know this is some thick meat and potatoes, and baby, there are so many aspects to it, and no, we're not claiming to be um what are they called, experts. We're just going to share our experiences and what we've seen in other people with them sharing their experiences with us. And you know like I said, we're here for it, so we thank you for being here. Did you want to add anything, mamas?
I think you hit it right where you needed to hit it. Definitely your voice is one of the most important things that you have to advocate for yourself, regardless of your age. I think at the end of the day, and I say this quite often, the message can be relayed to anybody. It's just based on their age appropriation, right? So making sure that your children feel safe to speak to you is one of the most important things first, right? They have to have a safe space for that. And kids are easy to mold and they're also easy to break. And one of the things you never want to do is make your child feel like they're not safe to talk to you about what's transpiring. Even if you didn't get that as a child, it doesn't mean that you have to continue to repeat the same cycle with your children. Healing starts with you. It starts with what you recognize you didn't know before, and now you're implementing that, and not only for yourself, but for the people that are around you. Um, I know that my kids had friends that they felt like they were safe to talk to me before they talked to their own parent. And while that may sound a little strange, I do promote communicating with your adults, right? Your parent or who you care or consider to respect. And sometimes that safe space may also be a therapist. And so healing is something that can take place from anybody that you learn from. One of the things that I've said before is you can learn from a fool. You can definitely learn that. You can learn what not to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So make sure that your healing journey, your learning, your capability of learning isn't just someone that you trust. Someone that you don't respect, you can learn from them too, because you can learn what you want to implement for yourself going forward. That boundary you need to put in place to protect your emotional state, your mental state. And so this is what this podcast is indeed about, based on our story and our journey in life and how we were able to navigate to a place of safetyness, and to love and respect ourselves, who we are as people. In addition to when we identify what boundaries we put in place to protect ourselves as well, and the outcomes of people who disrespect those boundaries. So that's what one of those topics we discussed about today.
Yes. So we mentioned last episode your children, children, just children again. Allowing them to have, like Tom mentioned, that safe space and allowing them to use their voice, to feel safe, to feel that like they're heard, as we want as adults, right? We have to start in our childhood so that we know how to navigate the world as we become adults. Children that children that experience their voices being silenced grow into adults whose voices are also silenced. And that's a it's a huge um but the avenue that we're going to go down today is based off of what we shared thus far, and we can always come back to other avenues at a later time. So like one of the one of the things that came up was having a conversation with your child. You know, you're going through your healing journey, you're having a conversation with your child, allowing them to be able to honestly tell you how they feel about you or even felt about you when they were growing up. Boy. So, as mentioned previously, I didn't have a voice growing up. I did not. And it was very confusing for me. And then I made the decision that when I had my own children, I would do things a lot differently compared to some of the experiences that. Um, and the biggest thing for me was there were a lot of instances where something came up and someone gave their side of the story and marked me as the bad person. The question was never asked, what was your side of the story? That's a problem because you should always hear the other person's side of the story if you're going to come be a mediator of sorts. Right, right. So that question was not asked of me growing up. And so that caused me to get quite a few punishments that were not rightfully to me. Back in the day, we called them beatings. And in today's world, I still call them shits beatings because I got my ass beat, okay? So, um, that was those type of experiences were very much like the forefront of how I want to do things differently when I raised my kids. Now, was I successful? I don't think so. I think I repeated the same um horrible decisions in some cases, right? Oh, I can't wait to when the kids come on and give their perspective because maybe this is one tell a story. Listening to them tell the story back, even though I was there and I saw it and I have reflected on it, and I'm like, dang, girl, you could, ooh, boy, dang, you just, but listen to them tell, listen, we all colorful, okay? We very
Mhm.
colorful, laughing, because I laugh about it now, only because it's the truth and they have gotten over it, right? They have healed through it and they've accepted it as, look, that used to be you. That ain't you now. They've forgiven me going forward. And sometimes they come across things in their lives and it kind of brings them back. And then we'll have a conversation about it. And that's wonderful, right?
Mhm.
But baby, when I tell you the whole shut up, don't speak, the I want to hear you, get out of my face. I recall doing those things. And I'm not saying that lightly and saying, oh, it's okay. No, this shit is not okay. It fucked me up. Okay. I was not the mother I wanted to be because I was repeating errors. Okay. That made me feel so horrible. And that wasn't fair to my children. Okay. I was not nice sometimes. Now, um, even though they have forgiven me and we have gotten to a better place, I still will catch myself sending them a little text. I was back to you. All right, ma, all right. We even talked about that. And I'm like, just hug me one really good time. You know, because I'm still healing that. They may have healed. I'm still healing. Let's try to move these tears. Anyway, I love that my children can now come and talk to me about how they felt back then. I did not give them the safe space. I wanted them, and I kept telling them, oh, you can come talk to me about anything. But I wasn't really prepared, and my ego was very forefront back then. I was like, I ain't do nothing wrong. I said what I said. It is what it is. This is my house, right? But that was wrong. Yeah, it was my house. I provided the, finances or whatever the case to keep a roof over their head. I did whatever I could. However, they are still my children and they have feelings, and I didn't respect their feelings sometimes. And that creates a blockage when your children are growing up and they're trying to talk to you, right? And so we got to be fair. We got to be fair. I didn't like the way it felt when I grew up. We can't keep operating in insanity. Can't keep doing the same shit thinking that something's gonna be different. No, it doesn't work that way. So I repeated some of the same bad habits that I learned that I inherited from my mother, which she possibly learned from her mother. I don't know. I haven't had the opportunity to have a full on honest conversation with my mother. Um, about this because every time, even as an adult, I have been shut down. So I just said, forget it. It is what it is. I'm doing different, and that's what we're gonna focus on. And so now my kids, I let them talk freely to me. And when I say freely, I mean freely. Like I'm their good girlfriend, baby. Sometimes the story got to be told, and a little profanity is shared. I do not stop them and be like, "Oh my God, no, no, speak." Tell me how you feel about whatever situation we're talking about, whether it got to do with me or anybody else. Talk freely, please, and thank you, because I want you to be able to get that all out. I done already, I done already prevented you long enough, right, from being able to speak freely and to be heard. I'm past that. I'm over it. You're not cussing or using profanity. Yeah, we gonna look. You're not cussing at me. You're talking to me the way I want you to talk to me. I want you to talk to me from a place of authenticity. I know y'all be out here tripping with your friends and talking. Look, I got friends too. I be talking free too. So we all adults here, all of us. And I'm gonna treat you as such. I'm gonna give you a little wisdom along the way from previous experiences and just from experiences that, where spirit comes into play when we're having conversations. I'm just gonna give it to you because you deserve it. And it's being shared with me, so why not share it with you, right? Anyways, shutting your child's ability to speak freely, shutting it down hinders them in adulthood, hinders them at life. I have worked with people who won't stand up to their boss, who's being disrespected in front of other people, other coworkers, who are being sexually harassed by supervisors, who and coworkers who are they're just keep your head down, they're quiet, they get workload and they're stressed out, and then you hear on the news stories of people committing, unaliving themselves and things of that nature because they're under so much stress. Why? Why do you think they didn't speak up for themselves? What happened? We gotta start taking responsibility for not letting people speak or listening with our listening ears versus our judgmental. Right? Because everybody has a story, everybody's struggling through something. Everybody has challenges, and we have to respect. So, if you're opening yourself up for someone to talk to you, stop being nosy. Stop being nosy to go gossip at the water, at the water boat. Like, stop. If you're asking someone how they're doing or how's the situation coming along, don't take that information and go gossip about it with people that shouldn't know about their business. Like, shut the hell up. If you don't really care to help, don't ask. It ain't your business. People share, some people share because they're looking for help. Others share because they're just in a place of misery and they just want to spread that misery. But then other people just want attention too. So, use discernment. But if someone is seriously trying to get help, shut the hell up and listen. Help them find the resources they need and then, provide them what they need, what you can provide them with, even if it's just the damn phone number, right? Don't make people feel like their voice is not important. I know a lot of people got issues with the current administration. And we tired of hearing his voice. Look, okay, I get it. Even he has a purpose. Let him live in his purpose. Look, I ain't got nothing to do with his decisions. But what I will say is this. When it comes down to people that are asking for help them. Don't add extra baggage, frustration, whatever, stress to their situation by taking that information and spreading it. It's not nice. And it will come back. I love Carmen. I respect her very much. And I love how she allows you to see her do the work that needs to be done because it brings closure when needed. But your children's voices are very, very much important, and they should have a space a safe space where their voices should be heard, because we want to prevent a lot of adult things and a lot of childhood experiences that shouldn't take place either. They need that safe space. Because things happen now. We already mentioned that, we had some experiences go right. And things like that, things like that shouldn't happen. Or even if it does happen, correcting it when it happens is very important. And your child should also feel like you heard them when you go in. They need to feel protected, right? So if they say that they're not feeling safe, that's their voice. Let it be heard. Doesn't matter that mommy got to go to work, daddy got to go to work, and y'all leave them with whoever you leave them with, knowing that your child's don't want to be there, and your child's trying to tell you, and you're ignoring it. Listen to your child. They know you're not there, right? You might be that crash out parent. So your child then becomes a victim because you don't want to listen, because you got to run off to work. Now, I get it. We got to pay the bills or whatever. But listen, we need to also try to find other avenues. Hey, maybe you're not supposed to be at that job. Maybe you're supposed to be at home. Maybe you're supposed to be doing something else. Or maybe you're supposed to be kicking whomever out of your life permanently because you're choosing one. So, we just have to be mindful. We really do have to be mindful of, the choices that we make, and listen to our children, because it's very important. It's very important. I think that's all I have. I told y'all, listen, look. Go ahead and sign, because I know you guys.
You touched on so many different things when you were talking. Um, two things that you said that I definitely wanted to touch on because this is something that rings true for me. While my kids, my biological kids, are they're 25 and 29 right now. And this year they'll be 26 and 30. And so we still talk um, almost pretty much about everything.
Mm-hmm.
But I do allow them to have the space and opportunity to come to me when they're going through something. I can see it on their face, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
can see it in their silence. And I may say something just to check in to see how things are. And then I allow them the opportunity to come to me when they're ready, because you got to allow people to have opportunities to make sense of whatever is happening to them here first
Mm-hmm.
before
Mm-hmm.
they're able to verbalize it. But one of the things I always did with them was make sure that they can come to me about something. And the reason behind that is because exactly what we talked about in our very first episode. I also was molested as a child. And so when I was able to have these conversations with my mother, um, she did indeed take action, right? Back then. There was
Mm-hmm.
one situation where, long story short, never saw that person ever again, right? But because of these experiences and then becoming an adult and at some point thinking that I wasn't supposed to speak up when something didn't feel right. And where that comes from, I know it didn't come from the way I was raised, but I think it has something an internalized situation where I just felt the voice said, "Hey, that's not okay." But my response was a fear response. a fear-based response, a fear of losing something, right? Um, and that fear will can cause you a lot of trouble. All right, it can cause you so much trouble.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to remove fear from yourself is going to be one of the most difficult things and most important things that you do for yourself as an adult. Okay, I'm just going to say that, and I'm sure we're getting a conversation as to what does that mean. But you should be afraid of some things. You should be aware.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yes.
should know the do's and the don'ts. But to be afraid, that'll cost you.
Mm-hmm.
So be mindful of the word fear in your life. You should have discernment. You should know what to do and what not to do. I think you
Mm-hmm.
should have more discernment than fear over any and everything in your life, no matter what the situation is. Um, I used to feel like, I'm just going to throw this out here as an example. I used to feel like I was afraid of heights. That's not true. I love flying.
Right.
So it's not a fear of heights. It's a fear of falling.
That
There's a
part.
difference. There is a difference, right? Understanding the root of your fear is the most important thing in the world. I don't know how to swim, but I will get my ass right in the ocean. In it. In it. It's not that I'm
Mm-hmm.
afraid of water. I'm afraid of drowning. There is a
Yes.
difference. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
A cup of water can drown you. You ain't got to be in the ocean.
Right.
You have to understand and rationalize your fears and where that comes from. One thing I'm not afraid of is any other person, human being, or animal, or species of ants, or arachnids, or bugs. I ain't afraid of none of those things. I understand their purposes. I understand how they move. I understand how they navigate. But to fear something that has a purpose, nah.
Mm-hmm.
I just know what I don't want on my skin. So this is what we're talking about, being able to understand yourself in addition to allowing your kids to understand themselves. You teach your children how to function in society, which means you're teaching them how to be adults. So you be mindful of what you teach them. Because just because you're afraid, they shouldn't be afraid of your same fears. That's your phobias. That's not okay. So when we're talking about children, I think you also have to take a step back and recognize what is considered your children. So while we're talking about our physical direct descendants that we birth, if you have a job, because you mentioned this about, job and having a boss and not being afraid to speak up and, all these things, right? So in my career, um, I have always, in some form or fashion, managed people, whether it was a supervisory role or a management role. And to me, because of the way I am, I consider those direct reports my children. So that means I also treat them as I would my adult children. Meaning, I need to hear your voice. I need to understand the problems that you're going through. I need to know what's happening in your space, right? Your space, because everybody who may have worked for me were responsible for whatever was on their plate or their pipeline, or whatever the case may be, right? And then
Mm-hmm.
my responsibility is to make sure that the department is operational and functional, right? So keep the things going. And someone else is doing the work. I'm making sure it's going, it's flowing as needed based on the guidelines of the corporation. And in order for me to be able to successfully do that, I need to understand each and every person that works for me, right? So I'm giving them respect, understanding, and support like I would my direct descendants, my direct children. And so with that, I need to be able to hear their voice. And I am very clear about what that means. Whatever you need to tell me, there is no cap in how you communicate that. We're all adults. Every
Mm-hmm.
single one of us are adults. So I'm going to treat you as such. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to treat you as a leader. Why? Because your responsibility every single day is to lead whatever you're doing. You are
Mhm.
the advocate. You are the communication between the business and the client. So I need
Mhm.
to understand what's happening, right? Are you getting the support you need? What's
Mhm.
delaying the process? How can I jump in and provide you assistance to assist in the progress and the flow? What else is happening out of the norm? Because I've noticed something has faltered in your performance. What's happening there? Is it personal? Is it professional? How can I help? Is it something that the business can provide and assist you with in order for you to get things back on track? I need to
Mhm.
know what's
Mhm.
happening, right? And so, because I'm one of those individuals that can take a step back and remove a hack when necessary so you can tell me what's happening. Is it something that I'm not giving you something to help you? Because I need to know what
Mhm.
that is. Where am I failing you? And
Mhm.
so this is what we mean by allowing your children to utilize their voice. So it not necessarily have to be the ones you're birthing. It could truly be the ones you are supervising, the ones that you are managing. And if you don't have that kind of relationship with people that you're working with, you might want to take a step back and understand if they feel safe enough to come talk to you about what's transpiring in
Mhm.
their space. Now, don't get me wrong, you will have some people that can abuse that system, but that's where discernment comes from. And
Right.
you need to really take a look at that word to understand what that means. It does need to be a part of your intuition. And then how to navigate those type of conversations, whether that is indeed in a professional setting or if it's a personal one. So when it comes to um, your children, right? It sometimes is a difficult conversation to have. I remember very clearly when I was a child, and I'm talking about my oldest sisters. They are 10, 9, and 8 years older than me. So, of course, I was truly the baby in the house, right? But as the baby, I had the privilege of listening to everything that transpired
Mhm.
between my sisters and my mother. So I learned the do's and the don'ts of a teenager, right? I understood the limits to my mama, right? I
Mhm.
understood the challenges up front, right? I understood, yeah, we ain't gonna navigate like that. That's a better way to communicate this, right?
That.
Um, yeah, I learned. I was able to learn, you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So, because my mom birthed 4 girls, you can only imagine how sometimes a month might have been around that house, right? And we know by life how you can sync up. You know what I mean when I say sync up?
Yep.
Oh, she would sit us down at least once a month at the table. And that was where our opportunity was for us to voice our opinion, our thoughts, and our feelings about what we didn't like that she did and what she didn't like that we did.
Mhm.
And I think that was the most profound thing that any mother could do
Mhm.
with their children. And I can assure you, she did not learn that from her parents. I can assure you that.
Mhm.
So for her to say, okay, we're going to do something different, let me know that I could do the same thing as an adult. Okay, I could do
Mhm.
something different. So um, having, feeling safe in any situation, I think is the most important place to be. So you might want to go home and say to your child, did I make you feel safe? Did you feel safe coming to me and talking to me? And hear what they say. Start there.
Mhm.
But you also have to be prepared for what they say.
Mhm.
And especially if something, a voice in your head is telling you, be willing to accept the feedback, right? And if
Mhm.
that child is emotional about that response, be willing to accept the feedback because it is their story that they're telling it from.
Right.
There are things that my kids have come and told me that number one, didn't know that they remembered, and number two, I didn't remember it.
Right. Same. Yep.
So understanding what we can tweak in ourselves makes a huge difference in life. I think that people forget that they navigate their lives. You
Mhm.
control the direction that your life goes in by the decisions that you make and the choices that you make. Um, and if you want to fight someone tooth and nail about their truth and their story, you're losing a battle. You're not winning the battle, you're losing it because their feelings are their feelings. You don't control how someone else feels.
Right.
You just don't. You don't. You can only control your own emotions. Can't control no one else's emotions. You can only control yours. So having your kids feel safe and communicate that they feel safe is a win-win for a parent. That's a win. That's a huge win. That says that you've done the right thing.
Right.
And then having your kids feel comfortable as adults to come talk to you and like being around you.
That's the icing on the cake.
What you, one of the things that I do to this day, just like just like my partner said today, my dear sister said today. One of the things that I do to this day, I have mental conversations about, life in general. Me, myself, and I just reliving life in certain scenarios, and could I have done this differently? Did I do this the right way, or did I make the right decision? How did this outcome affect me? What did I learn from this?
Mhm.
Um, I'm so thankful that my children actually like me as as a
Yeah.
person, and then as their mother, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
They like to spend time with me. And I
That
don't
part.
care what I got going on. I could be dog tired. But if my kids want to talk, I give them that time. I give them that time. Um, just yesterday, I was at the zoo with my two adult children and my grandson. You got my time. If I can make
Mhm.
it, you can have it. Bottom
Mhm.
line. So, it's a blessing. And the same thing with my mom. Man, don't get me wrong. I love my mama, but I can't spend around all day, all day. But I love her. I love her. And I like her. And I think that's the biggest part. Um, you can love someone and not like them. I'm gonna repeat that. You can love someone and not like them.
Baby, because I love my mom. I don't like her.
And it's natural for us to love the person that, well, most of the time, it's natural for us to love the people that raised us
Mhm.
most of the time.
Mhm.
But I don't mean that we like them. And I think that that conversation with your children is very important early on and check in. And don't be afraid to apologize for something that you did to someone that you love and claim to care for. It is not
Amen.
going to make you a less of a person if you put your ego to the side and just
Mhm.
said, I apologize for that dumb shit that I did because I was in a place, in a space that I was not fully capable of understanding the outcome and the impact that it would have had on you.
Mhm.
Even as
Mhm.
adults, even as adults, even as parents, we too need time and space and understanding to heal for whatever traumatic situation that we grew up in and still have responsibility and accountability for raising our children. We it,
Mhm.
we own that. We own that. And
Yeah.
making excuses for a shitty ass childhood does not fix it.
Right.
What my mama didn't, what my parents didn't, what my grandma
Oh,
didn't, they ain't got nothing to do
and
with you today. They got nothing to do with you today as a person, as a person who chose to give birth to other people and raise them. And even if you didn't choose to do it, you still did it. They're here now. So now that they're here, make sure they feel safe
that part.
based on their idea of safe.
Mhm. Yeah.
That's it. I mean, in order for our children and us to feel like we have a voice to be able to advocate for ourselves, you have to also feel like your surroundings are safe. That's the truth. That's the truth.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, saying that the space is safe doesn't mean it's safe to be rude. That's
That
not what
part.
that means. You have to be able to communicate your emotions and your experiences, emotional intelligence, look that one up,
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
any
We're gonna
situation.
that after boy, yeah. But continue.
You have to be able to utilize that in any space, personal and professional. But it also requires you to understand yourself and how your emotions come out to others, right? Um, that's just something that's very, very, very important in order for you to navigate this life in general. And while my lovely sister also mentioned the way this governmental society is moving and navigating in life, you have to have the capability to discern when to use your voice in
Mhm.
those situations. But I think you also need to keep track of the way the world is spinning in the first place, right?
Mhm.
Chaos wins. Chaos makes money. So you have to be able to navigate within a chaotic situation in a chaotic world. And you also have to be able to um, feel safe enough to communicate what you may need to do next.
Mhm.
And if you're able to function in a chaotic system,
Mhm.
which means your nervous system, you own your nervous system, not your
Yeah.
outside
Yeah.
influences. You own your nervous system. In order for you to do that, you have to be able to understand yourself and what you
Mhm.
need in order to continue to function in a chaotic system. So um, that starts, hopefully, you can teach your children that early,
Mhm.
right? Once you realize what you need in order to do that, teach your kids early how to do that.
Yeah.
Because again, you're raising adult kids who are going to be adults at some point in this
Mhm.
society. While they may have the responsibility as adults to navigate life, you giving them the tools early on
Mhm.
is the win. That's the win. And what they decide to do with that as an adult is their choice. But
Mhm.
you as the adult have to provide them some level of foundation in order to navigate in that space. So I recommend checking in.
Mm-hmm.
Check in and see how things are with them, right? Ask the simple question and let them take the wheel, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Let them decide where the conversations are going to go. Or if they are hesitant to respond, says a lot. So making sure that they feel safe, while you may have an idea of what safe is, ask them, do they feel safe?
Mm-hmm.
You know, their voice, use their voice in communicating what they feel. I think we have quite a bit of adults who never even understood how to communicate their feelings. And it's because they didn't feel safe enough in order to do that. And we know just from society's perspective, girls and boys are treated differently when it comes to feelings and emotions. Unfortunately, we hear it all the time. We see it in different social media aspects. One of the things I see, unfortunately, with men is toxic masculinity, and what that looks like. Well, that started as a child, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've heard this before over and over again from male counterparts all the time. When they were children, they were always asked who their girlfriend was,
Mm-hmm.
even in elementary, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's not okay.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
And then girls were always taught, don't be fast, right? Why are girls being taught don't be fast, but boys are being asked who their girlfriend is before they can be able to um, discern between whether they want peanut butter and jelly or oatmeal for breakfast. It's not okay. Like we can laugh and joke about this, but it's still it isn't okay. It gives you an idea of how this starts early on.
Mm-hmm.
So I think in my experience, I feel and think that we got to do better um, as parents to make
Mm-hmm.
sure that our kids know that just because society says you should doesn't mean that's the end all be all. I think when we stop trying to fit in
Mm-hmm.
and start teaching discernment early and how to regulate your own emotions and your own nervous system early, I think that you have a better chance of having a functional adult that can be able to heal and communicate what healing looks like early. So that's my input on it.
wanna I wanna piggyback on some definitions because some people don't take the time to look at some of these words, and some people use them and they use them incorrectly.
Yes,
Because one, I wanted to make sure that folks understood is what discern means.
yes,
It ain't the ego, but let me tell you what it is. It's the ability to perceive, understand, and judge situations clearly without your emotions, particularly those that are not obvious or straightforward. Okay? Um, there's some more here, so I want to read that too. It involves analyzing details. When you're analyzing details such as emotions, facts, and spiritual cues to distinguish truth from deception or to identify the best course of action. The key elements of discernment include developing a refined taste, often spiritual or ethical, and active, thoughtful reflection rather than passive waiting. That is discernment. Emotional intelligence is the ability to identify, understand, manage, and utilize emotions effectively in oneself and others. You know, like read and run.
that's right.
It involves using emotions as data to guide thinking, behavior, and decision making to build stronger relationships and enhance performance. Key components of emotional intelligence include self-awareness, self,
Absolutely.
self-regulation, and motivation, empathy, and social skills. Notice it said self-awareness and
Yes.
self-regulation. We have to learn to put the mirror up and look at
Gotta, gotta do it.
this in the mirror. Because if you don't know where what your emotions are, where they stand, how they affect you, then you're not going to be able to tell the difference between yours and someone else's, right?
Right.
You need to be aware of your strengths, your weaknesses, or sorry, I like this word, but limitations, right?
Yes.
Your strengths and limitations. Self-regulation is, like Ty mentioned earlier, managing your impulsive feelings and adapting to changing situations. Being able to self-regulate does not look like the toddler that can't get the square into the circle space and they start throwing things around. That's not
Yeah.
self-regulating. That's chaotic tantrum, right? If you don't teach your kids as parents how to navigate that, they're just adult toddlers
That's it.
in the world. And then you see the person that's quick to crash out, and it's not even logical why they're crashing out. They ask you for one of your fries, and then they want to beat your ass. So that don't even make sense. Go buy your own damn fries, right? So, you gotta get them. It starts when they're young.
Hmm.
Some situations where parents have had children and they weren't ready, and then they didn't have the means to make other choices for whatever reason. But it starts when they're kids. It starts with their kids. This is where we have to talk about judging, because everyone doesn't know what the person's situation is and how they got to that
Yeah.
point. Um, your discernment comes into place when that happens.
Hmm.
Emotional intelligence come into play when that happens. It is not our responsibility to judge. So we need to stop that. Because if you're not going to look in the mirror and take accountability for yourself first, you have no right judging someone else's situation.
Hmm.
So judging people. Everybody has a story. Allow them to live or tell them, um, without making them feel like shit. It's not a thing. Um, our babies, look. Mommy hat on now, okay? My baby's always gonna be my babies. Look.
Hmm.
And like I mentioned, supervising people, they become my babies too. Mentoring folks, they are my babies too. Look, I got a whole bunch of kids. They're not kids in the sense of itty bitties, not walking. These are grown adults and they still my babies. Look, because I hear love child, love child. Remember you mentioned in the previous episode that you are a love child. And I am too. And I think that's why. Okay, so one of my stepsisters said to me one day after I was coming out of a really bad situation, relationship. And she said, "How do you do it?" And I said, "Do what?" She said, "No matter what you go through, you out there trying it again and again and again." And I'm like, "Well, why not? It feels good. It feels good. Leading from love. Why
Yes.
not? I don't everybody that doesn't want to lead from love. Like, who doesn't want to feel this? It feels amazing." Um, I think for me, because I know love isn't supposed to hurt, at least that shouldn't be the intention to hurt somebody, right? Right. Um, because I know that it's not my intention. If I love you, I don't want to hurt you. Um, I'm willing to give it another chance and another, and I want it to work. Whatever that relationship is, I want it to work, right? And so when it comes to our children, like I birthed these annoying little beasts from my womb. Like, I wanted them. I wanted them since I was young. I just always had a vision that I was going to have kids. And I wanted to love on them. So why wouldn't I want sanity, right? Why wouldn't I want them to feel safe with me? Why wouldn't I want them to be happy? Why wouldn't I want to protect them, right? Because that's all a part of love. They should feel
Yes.
safe. They should be heard. They should be protected, right? They should also want to lead with love too, because mommy leads with love, right? I can't speak on daddy. I'm not saying that he don't love his kids. I just can't speak on daddy because I'm not daddy. I'm mommy. I'm speaking
Yes.
from a place of a womb holder.
Right.
I felt these children, these three that I gave birth to. I felt them inside growing,
Mm-hmm.
right? I felt every movement, every kick, every heartburn, every
Mm-hmm.
one night that I couldn't sleep because they wanted to ball up in one side and I wanted to lay on another, whatever. I felt all of that. So I loved them. Yeah. Um, and I want them to know always that mommy's here for them. Okay? All my kids are taller than me. I want to say this to y'all real quick. I love y'all dearly. Jeanette, don't I'm older, baby. I'm older. You gotta slow the speed down when you come to hug me, baby. Okay, slow the speed. Jump, jump gently. Um, when I moved into adulthood, myself, I'm not gonna hold on too long, but when I moved into adulthood, I still wanted my mommy, right? Even though I didn't get her the way I wanted her, I still wanted my mommy. I wanted to be able to go to her house and climb up in her bed, and cuddle with her. I wanted I did not have that a lot of times. But my kids, they know they can come. We cuddle. We grab a blanket and we cuddle. I love that for us. Yeah. And I honestly believe that it had to do with once I realized I was not what I wanted to be, who I wanted to be, and started working on myself. I showed them, and it was an uphill battle, baby. When I tell you, once your children lose trust in you, that shit is. But once I started working on myself, I had to show them that I wasn't the same person. And once they got the idea, it was like, oh, wait, she moves different. Oh, she speaks different. She feels different altogether. Oh, let me test this because they will test you for safety, right? And they tested me and I passed my test. And I'm excited because I passed my test. Okay. So now I have day-long conversations sometimes. I already know we sit on video and look, we have to use Google Meet because I'm not an Apple user. Right. So we sit on Google Meet. Yeah, I'm throwing shade. But we sit on video and we talk about the most random. Listen, I had to take notes. That's the conversation I had with my youngest. I had to take notes and say we're gonna pin that when we come back to it and finish this conversation because that's how we got to talk. As y'all can see, but anyways, and we talked for like a good 8 to 10 hours. I think we might have had a break in between because she had an appointment, but don't do that.
Right.
Who do that with somebody that don't like their parents?
Right.
Because I don't. My baby's. I did. So, I just, that's something I have to pat myself on the back for because I wanted that. And I had to do the work to get that. I had to do the hard work. I had to swallow my pride and put ego to the side. Like I said, hey, girl, sit your ass down.
Right.
Because what you're doing is preventing me from having a relationship that I want to have. We're not doing that shit no more. Watch this. And I had to have my ego watch me heal. Watch me make corrections. Watch me apologize. Watch me change my behavior. Secondly, it's like stepping out of yourself and really at looking at yourself and taking the time to really assess yourself. That was a very challenging time. And I ain't even gonna lie to you. I ain't gonna lie to you. That shit was hard.
Hmm.
It was hard. Once I showed them that I wasn't who I used to be and that I was serious about making a relationship last. I even went to my oldest and I told her, sorry, my oldest daughter, and I told her, I said, hey, you're living life. You're now in a space where you're young, you're married, you got a baby. These are three things that are very challenging at this time. I said, if you feel like you are starting to lose yourself, please reach out to me so I can help you navigate that. Please reach out to me because postpartum depression, I had it with her. I didn't even know I had it. I didn't know what the hell it was. When she talked to me about some of the things that she was feeling, I said, what do you need from me? Because, baby, like our daddy tells us all the time, if you need to come home, come home.
Oh,
Come home. Okay, where I live at. Come home. Because one thing for certain, two things for sure, I will not let you sit and suffer in silence by your damn self. We ain't doing that shit.
facts.
I won't. I refuse. Period.
That's right.
Um, but they feel safe. Now, my sons, they don't talk too much. They don't talk too much. They say a little bit some of the time, but they don't talk a whole lot. And like Ty mentioned earlier, you have to give them space to come. And when they do come, you hold that space very sacred for them. I've told all of my kids, all four of them, don't come home. Respect the house. Don't come home.
That's all.
Respect the house. Y'all know what I'm talking about.
That
But
part.
y'all but they always have a home. They always have a home. You know what I'm saying? Um, you can't come home and be a bum.
Mm-hmm.
Let's work on some things, but you can come
Mm-hmm.
home. You feel
Mm-hmm.
me? I'll help you navigate your adulthood situation as much as I can. But they know that they have a safe place to go at the end of the day, no matter what they're going through, right? But baby, that takes some time. And like Ty mentioned also, healing is ugly. Healing is ugly and it don't happen overnight. You actually have to put in some work.
Yeah.
But baby, it's worth it.
It's worth it.
So worth it. It's so worth it. Oh, that feels good. Anyways, you have anything else to add, my dear?
One thing, because you mentioned something during your conversation about, being a mother and being pregnant with the baby, and that baby, you felt that baby development from the time of conception through birth and beyond. And one of the things I think we forget as moms is that we actually compromise with our unborn baby.
Mm-hmm.
Why not compromise when they are born?
Right. Right. Where's
Why
the
not?
girl? You gonna lay on this side? Okay, well I'm gonna lay on this side. That's compromise. Oh, you don't like eating that? Okay, well I don't want to feel sick, so we're gonna stop eating that during this pregnancy. We compromise. Oh, somebody could be a chain smoker. Well, doing while I'm pregnant, I'm not smoking. They giving up smoking. I mean, shit. Like we are compromising. Why is it so hard once they on the outside?
Why is it so hard when they are on the outside?
Make that shit make sense.
Make that make sense. I had never really thought about that until you made the statement, and then my brain did the comparison.
I never thought about it either. Ever.
Our our motherhood, I think, is in my opinion, and in quite a few people' opinion, motherhood is the ultimate in life because you, as a woman, has the capability to bring new life into this world.
Baby. We magical.
We straight up magical, right?
Magical, baby. We can bake a whole human in our belly and still go on living our lives while we're doing it.
Girl, that's a whole nother conversation. Because the way moms navigate this thing, let's think about this for a second. Let's talk about this for a second. And then we're gonna let y'all go. But let's talk about this for a second. We were given the ability to bring life into this world,
Mhm.
to teach that new life how to navigate this world,
Mhm.
so that if you birth adults that have the capability to emotionally regulate themselves can bring a new life into this world. And that life cycle continue. Why not
Mhm.
give the first set a safe space to communicate with you? Give a moment in time of their life journey to get advice, to feel comfortable that you will give them good advice. And be honest about your part and your
Mhm.
experiences and not feel shame or
Mhm.
shame them for asking. You have
Mhm.
compromised with them for the first, most
Mhm.
time, 9 months of gestation. You should continue to be able to know how to compromise with them
Mhm.
as once they're outside of gestation period. You'll compromise for the love of your life. Are
Yeah.
they not the loves of your life?
Right.
Were they not the greatest gift that you were given or the
That
ability to
part.
give to this world?
Mhm.
I think that we need to review what love is, because I think the ultimate gift of love is giving life into
Mhm.
this world. And sure, even if you're in a relationship, that love that you're getting from that relationship should be able to enhance the love you already have within yourself. So when we talk about healing, we are indeed talking about the person in the mirror
Mhm.
and being able to accept love, identify what it is, and how to navigate it and how to
Mhm.
communicate it, and then be able to do the same for your direct descendants and the children that you birthed or the ones you didn't birth, the ones you supervised, right? Um, so I think this is one of,
Mhm.
again, healing is something
Mhm.
that's we're going to
Mhm.
stretch out in multiple episodes and different aspects because man, healing is not linear. I've said this before. That those conversations we'll revisit. Once you feel like you healed, it's going to be a situation that's going to be thrown right into your face to see how healed you really are and what you really need to work on when you get triggered all over again. And are you going to choose better? It's going to continue to transpire until you learn the lesson. So when we say put that ego to the side, we mean allow the ego, the boost, the fighter in you to sit it down and allow the love in you to be able to communicate and understand and listen with your ears and not with your mouth, right? And listen to understand and not to rebut, right? Um, I think that's huge. I think that we don't have enough safe spaces in today's society, and I think you can create that if you choose, right? Because everything is indeed about choice. So that's what I had to just add on.
Yeah.
Yes,
Dig into that. I'm excited to
yes.
dig into that one because, girl. Anyways. Oh, y'all. So, wait. Oh, Lord. We did it again. Another long episode. Listen, it's all right, though. It's all right. If I loves you, I love you as always. Thank you for joining us. Leave a comment, a question, a suggestion. Talk to us. We got email at tjclpodcast@gmail.com. We've got our website at tjclpodcast.com. Look, hit us up, okay? We got the IG. Um, I'm working on a YouTube page, okay? Look, bear with me. Bear with me. But it's coming. Just, hey, we're here talking to y'all. Talk to us. We want to hear from as always, this journey called life
And let's talk about it.
continues, one conversation at a time. Peace.